I was interested, as we're moving, because things are, and I'm going to ask these guys several of these questions over the next couple of weeks. Let's get moving. But I was talking to a partner. It's where I get a lot of our ideas that was saying, hey, I have this opportunity. And this one happened to be with a yoga studio. And he's like, I've never done yoga in my life. I don't even know how do they make money. Are they charging subscriptions? How do I even go in? But he had a friend of a friend that he could go in and build their, contact and see if they could get the business. And I wondered the question, gentlemen, when you work with someone and maybe that like whether it's an e-commerce business or a brick and mortar business, and you have no idea even how that business runs, how do you get that conversation started? What are some of the questions you ask to try to not look like a complete, ignoramus, for lack of a better term, but at the same time, put your best foot forward, being honest, you don't know how it all works, and help find that solution fitting that we always talk about, finding that right piece for them to help work in their payments and help them become valuable in their business when you didn't even know maybe it existed 10 minutes ago. Danny, what do you think?
This is a really good question, Nate, and I think every partner can take a note on this, myself included. Whenever I saw this question was going to come up, I immediately started going to my quiver of, well, I talked to him about this and I talked to him about that, and, try to get their minds going in this direction. But, after taking a step back on this, Brian said this best, and Nate, I think you've said it before here as well on the 5, is every partner needs to do a lot better at listening, right? And that's 90% of the job is listening and understanding the needs of the merchants, how their business operates, how they take payments, just how they operate in general. Getting you that full understanding and letting them talk and you taking notes and trying to become an expert in a 5 to 10 minute conversation as much as you can to try to guide them and do that solution fitting. And yeah, you got to ask the questions, but the questions are very simple, right? Like, look, I'm not in your industry. Tell me a little bit about your business, how you guys operate, how are you taking payments, what are all the options you need, and just letting the merchant talk. Because you ask that question, and I'm telling you, they're gonna spill on you, right? The entire thing, and then it's up to you to take that information and pivot to a right solution and take the conversation over from there. Which from there, the conversation doesn't change too much. In fact, I had one of these yesterday. With a very large medical billing company that I'm working with another partner on. I know nothing about that, right? But I do know that they've got a few solutions that they use, which are very similar to what we've got, but I had to get a full understanding of how they operate. It was very intricate. They worked with a lot of different doctors' offices around the country, and I just had no idea how it worked. So it took about 15 minutes into the conversation of this guy explaining to us how they operated, how they did it. And once I kind of knew, then I knew how to guide him from there. If I wouldn't have done that and I would have started the conversation off with what we're about and how we can do it, I just don't think the conversation goes anywhere because I didn't take the time to learn it from them. So got to listen.
Love that, Dan. That's something that keeps coming up time after time when we're discussing things. You've got to be a listener, and you've got to, as a listener, you get out of the way as fast as possible and you ask the right question. And one of the things I hear from our partners often, and I think is a mistake, and I'd be interested in, Brian, if you think this is they start with payments related questions instead of business related questions first. Brian, do you think that's a mistake? And what are some of the first questions you would ask?
Well, no, it's absolutely a mistake because here's the thing. The reality of it is, a lot of people just aren't comfortable talking about payments. They're just not, right? And I think for the most part because they're I don't know if they're confused or they don't understand it or they know they're paying fees or there's just a whole bunch of different things. So I don't think people really I've joked with Matt Hoskins about this before. Nobody ever wants to talk to the credit card guy. So make it to where they want to start talking to you. And like Danny said, and again, we talk about listening all the time, and there's only so many things in a sales call that. So listening, absolutely. And the other thing is you have to ask open-ended questions, because if you don't ask open-ended questions, the conversation goes quiet quickly. And it's so funny that we're talking about this because I've got my middle son who just graduated from Indiana University, and he's in the whole interviewing thing. He's actually been offered a couple of jobs, but my thing with him is when and again in today's day compared to back in the old days, you can get on the internet, you can get on LinkedIn, you can research the company, you can research the person that you're interviewing with. I mean, you can get to know a lot more about the company that you're talking about, and a lot more about who you're talking to, because just about everybody's and just about every business owner, I would think 80 to 90% of them are on LinkedIn, and you can get on LinkedIn and find out a little bit more about it. My older son who lives out in California, I mean, he was a LinkedIn king. And he's teaching my younger son, but it's not the old days like when Brian Linky had to type up a resume and put it in the mail and wait for a call back and things like that. So I just think that finding out, and again, you don't have to become an expert, like Danny just said, in the medical thing. I mean, you don't have to become an expert, but I was just talking to my younger son about this. Come up with 3 facts, 3 that you've got down pat. So when you sit down with the guy or the gal, okay, and you can talk about those 3 things about their company, because the thing about it is people love hearing about themselves. When people are talking to you, okay, and they love hearing about themselves, right? So if you're talking to them about the business that they're in and their role in the company, and the only reason that you know this is because you've done your homework, right? And again, you don't have to come up with a million different things. You have to look at it after you're writing it down. Just come up with 3. And just know those 3. And when you're talking to somebody and you're talking about them, again, people love hearing about the company that they own or that they're running, or they're the COO or whatever it is about their company. They'll love you to death because of it.
Be interested, guys. I love that, Brian, those 3 things. And I'm interested with you guys. Last questions. We try to finish up for this today. For me, one of the things that I always say is you've got to become curious. My personality is driven to curiosity. And I don't like sitting around anything and not knowing how it works, why it works and doesn't. And I know everyone's not like that. But I would wonder, can you be a really good salesperson if you are not learning to become more and more curious? And that curiosity is going to start with your conversations with new business owners, and this conversation, new industries that you didn't even know exist. Can you, how do you nurture that curiosity? Can you be a good salesperson without curiosity? And then number 2, if that's true, you need it. How do you nurture it? Danny, what do you think?
I don't think you can. I mean, I think you have to maintain that level of curiosity with everyone's business, because just like we've said before, these merchants don't understand payments, like Brian's saying, right? Like, not a lot of them want to talk to the payments person, but you gotta make yourself approachable and get them talking about their business and themselves. And it starts with you just displaying that level of curiosity. And you can be a little bit over curious too, right, Nate? So you kind of have to reel that in a little bit.
Don't be creepy, that's for sure. Yeah,
don't be creepy. But I mean, you've really got to let them talk. And Brian, you just said that really well. And I think that's something that a lot of partners can take from is, getting them talking about their business themselves and being curious in that business and talking that business up, because they're going to love you for it.
That's exactly right. I mean, again, I don't think you can be too curious, Nate. I mean, honestly, I think you can, to a point, because again, you can't be creepy about it. But I just find it hard to believe that a salesperson on a sales call is going to actually get creepy with somebody. You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's, I think we're kind of like, kind of going overboard with that. But again, being curious, knowing about the business, asking questions, open-ended questions.
Right.
There's nothing worse than, sitting there and asking closed-ended question, meaning a yes or a no answer, and then the room goes silent. Right. The last thing you want is silence. Right. You want the merchant talking about themselves and the business that they're in and learning more about it, so you can at least feel comfortable asking for the statement. or whatever it is that you need to do to get them interested in you.
I love it, Brian. But Brian, I would say this, as you say, don't underestimate the greed of the others around you. Don't underestimate the creepiness of some people around you as well. I think there is some.
That's true. That's true.
So, all right, as we close up today, guys, we are live nearly every day around 10 o'clock in different formats. We're going to be changing things up a little bit, but we're still going to be live around 10 o'clock Eastern time every day. You can catch it later. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at PayProTec. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, the @PayProTec page. And as partners of PayProTec, if you are, join the My PayProTec group. We share different versions of the content on all those platforms, as well as go over to LinkedIn. And we haven't been doing as much over there as we need to, and so we're going to be doing some more things on our LinkedIn pages in the weeks to come, so I encourage you to do that. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us as we finish up another high five, the first one after Memorial Day that we have done. I'm interested, Danny Schard, as I bring some music up and do some things here, I'm interested, what are the things that you want to encourage our people? We're down to just a few days to June 1st is coming next Monday. We're getting excited to start a new month, but we got to finish this one strong. What should the men and women following us do to stay strong through the end of the month?
It is crazy that we are almost halfway through 2020, right? June is here, summer is here. But we still got a few days here in May, so let's take advantage. And then really excited for June. Obviously a lot of America's starting to open up. I think there's still a lot that's TBD on some of that too, depending on where you're located. But stay positive and get ready, because it's going to be a fun summer.
Ryan Linky, what say you?
Again, we get Danny sends a report every single day, on the deal count and the productivity and the approval rate and the whole thing. And we were struggling there for a little bit, but I can tell you right now, for anybody who's listening, the numbers are better and they continue to get better. June will be better than May. And so if you're not excited, PayProTec is real. PayProTec is here to stay, and things are good here. So get out there and make yourself some money. With some of the things that we're offering now, it's never been better than it is today.
Yep, absolutely. And I was looking at the numbers this weekend, and one of the things I saw was that year over year, Friday and Saturday, I looked at it and I pulled last year's exact processing numbers to this year's processing numbers, and we were up 20% year over year. Now, part of that is because of our partners who have done great work bringing us more merchants, because our merchant count is just that much up. But that was not true in April. And as we went into Memorial Day weekend, we are seeing a growth. We're seeing the right trend, and we need to be safe. We need to be healthy and follow what Brian and Danny have said, because we can do this together. As we finish up just another day on the high five, we're so thankful you joined us. Thanks so much. We're going to be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's actually going to be me, and back Friday with Brian and Danny as we continue to talk about all things sales, marketing, and everything else. Thank you, guys. High five.
Thank you, Nate.
High five, everybody. The high five. Yeah.